is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Gino Lamont. Sarah Sanchez has the holiday weekend off. Our top story tonight is the start of that long Labor Day weekend. Traditionally, one of the busiest travel weekends of the year. Now, we're not seeing the normal bumper-to-bumper traffic into and out of the Coachella Valley. Here's a live look. You can see Interstate 10 there off in the distance, courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino cam. And so far, the traffic is steady, but certainly manageable considering the holiday weekend. But a lot of folks will be headed to the beach. This is a shot from just a short time ago. You see, they're not there yet, but it is a big concern for city leaders and health officials worried about too many people gathering too close together and without proper protection, including face coverings. And again, with the heat, it's a pretty good chance folks will be headed to the beach for a little relief. Now to a live look at Palm Springs International Airport. You can see there, we're looking, it's off in the distance, the control tower just to the left of your screen. There it is. Generally, we'd be seeing a lot of planes taking off and landing, bringing people in for the holiday weekend, but pretty quiet out there right now. Now, we do have a lot of ground to cover, so we have live team coverage with Nico Payne tracking holiday travel, Olivia Sandusky checking that outdoor dining in downtown Palm Springs, and Kitty Alvarado with safe practices on social gatherings for the holiday weekend. But let's begin with Nico Payne at Palm Springs International Airport. Nico.
Yes, we are just a ways away from baggage claim, and I can tell you this airport is quiet. Now, there are no estimated figures on travel due to the pandemic, but travel is expected to rise this weekend. I spoke to travelers coming back into town from business trips and others who are here to celebrate and have fun. As we head into this Labor Day weekend, a big announcement from Southwest Airlines.
Palm Springs is a great California destination. Southwest has long carried more customers to, from, and within the Golden State than any other airline.
The airline is launching new year-round routes later this year to Palm Springs and Miami.
This is an opportunity to generate more revenue and customers with available airplanes and people. Our fundamental challenge right now is too few customers.
City leaders say this move is a long time coming.
It's something that has been a priority for the City Council for over 10 years. It wasn't that many years ago that we used to have to pay American Airlines to have one flight a day in the summer to Dallas. So now we've come full circle with Southwest, so this is great news.
Travelers coming into town shared their holiday travel experience and why they decided to come embrace the desert heat.
We are celebrating for a bachelorette party for our sister. Yes. She's been here before and loves Joshua Tree, and so we have 10 of us coming, and we're all here to celebrate with her.
It was just a business trip, and I had to be out there for 2 weeks. Came back home to this nice, dry heat where I love Virginia. Super humid, and I do not like humidity.
How was your flight?
It was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It wasn't packed.
It wasn't packed. There was a lot of room, so it was nice.
And of course, the Coachella Valley is a popular travel destination due to all the fine dining. Olivia Sandusky is in the heart of Palm Springs with that part of our live coverage.
Here in Palm Springs this year, we're in the middle of Palm Canyon, where you would usually see a lot of car traffic, especially Friday night for the beginning of Labor Day weekend. But as you can see, this road is only open for pedestrians. They've closed it off and allowed some restaurants to push into it. This is what we've been looking forward to for a couple of weeks, and we're starting to see some diners here enjoying some drinks, enjoying some appetizers right on a lane here in Palm Canyon where some cars actually would have been parking. And you can see they're trying to keep people cool. The sun has gone down, so it's actually starting to feel a little better out here. We've got misters. They had umbrellas up for when the sun was up, but that sidewalk patio is a little bit more filled up. We are seeing a steady amount of people coming in and out, and as you can see, just starting to trickle out into the street where we have all of this new dining. Lulu told us that this took about 4 hours today. It's been something they've been working on for a week with the city once they got that permit. They were very excited to be able to give this to the diners. You can see someone giving us a cheers there. Everyone has been really excited to offer this. And of course, with this road closed down, there has been some concerns about parking. There are a lot of public structures and street parking available. The crowds aren't too heavy yet where you have to really have a concern about that. This should stay in place for about the next 4 months. And of course, we've got Indian Indian Canyon right there, which has 2 ways now. So really not impeding too much traffic here in the area. Everyone's seeming to kind of enjoy a nice calm start to Labor Day weekend. We'll send it back to you, Gino.
All right, Olivia Sandusky for us live in downtown Palm Springs today, taking a look at our Agua Caliente Casino cam in Palm Springs. And as Olivia mentioned, the sun is beginning to dip behind the mountains there, which will help cool off. But as we check in with Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett, I think he's going to tell us it ain't going to cool off all that much. Eh, Mike?
Gino, cool is not a word we're going to use a whole lot this weekend. And it's not just us here in the Coachella Valley. We are literally talking about the western half of the United States under a massive dome of high pressure. This is what's called a broad ridge for obvious reasons. Look at the size of this thing. Anything that's trying to come in off the Pacific right now is being diverted by the jet stream, not only into British Columbia, but northern British Columbia. Even folks in Vancouver, Seattle are going to experience some warm temperatures going into this weekend as well. Some big changes coming next week will bring some very cool air into the midsection of the country and help us out a little bit as well. But in the meantime, plenty of blue sky that we were just seeing out there and some record-breaking heat. In fact, we touched a record today. 116 is what we achieved at Palm Springs International. That tied the old record going back to 1955. And some quick math telling you we were well more than 10 degrees above average today. 104, the 30-year average for this time of year. We were warm in the overnights as well, and we're just getting started. 84 is where we touched down last night. 76 is the norm for this time of year. It looks like we're going to hit some 90s. So a lot of folks visiting from out of town, we're used to this. This is my 3rd summer here in the Coachella Valley, but a couple things I want to point out here is just what to look for with heat exhaustion, because it will be extremely hot and extremely dry this weekend. The one thing that I get a lot is that low, dull headache that reminds me that it's time to hydrate. If you start to feel that, or you see anybody around you exhibiting these type of symptoms, dizziness, fainting, lightheadedness, and then in some extreme instances, cramps, nausea, and vomiting, that is time to get somebody inside, get them cooled off, and if necessary, possibly get them to a hospital. Make sure you're keeping yourself hydrated and safe this weekend, because it is going to be dangerously hot. As we go through the rest of the evening, if you are planning on heading out and doing some outdoor dining, it's still going to be 102 degrees at 10 p.m. tonight. That's going to be something to be prepared for. We finally break into the double digits after midnight tonight, and we will start again warm tomorrow. Obviously, we're under an excessive heat warning. In fact, I pushed this one up here because they're under one not only at the coast, but out towards Catalina as well. That'll be in place today, tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday, the entire Labor Day weekend. On top of that, we've also got a red flag warning. That's an upgrade from the fire weather watch that we had in place yesterday. We're going to have an easterly wind that'll get up to about 30, 40 miles an hour at times this weekend, and that's really going to dry things out in the mountains there. Make sure you're extremely vigilant. Just don't use fire if you don't at all have to. Currently 114 at the airport, still a southeasterly breeze and single-digit humidity out there. Expecting the next 3 days to be even hotter. Look at this. We're going to push 120 Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Overnights only cool into the upper 80s and lower 90s. And it looks like records are going to fall across Southern California. Details on that and what to expect across the region coming up.
All right, thanks, Mike. And with that extreme heat he was just talking about, it's going to make it tough for family and friends who want to gather together on this Labor Day weekend to do it outside. So they're likely going to have to bring the party indoors, and that's going to be a problem. Kitty Alvarado live in Indio with a place you don't want to end up, a COVID-19 testing site after this holiday weekend. Kitty, we've seen surges after the last 2 long weekends. What's the concern with the medical community tonight?
Well, we saw it last time, just like you said. There was a big spike, a lot of gatherings, people just letting their guard down and having fun, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you do it responsibly.
People are out in full force at this Costco in Palm Desert preparing for the Labor Day holiday. Larry Profeta is inviting a couple of friends over.
To have a little dinner party on Sunday, and it's ribs.
But he's thinking about more than the menu. He says social distancing is a must. Lots of hand washing will be done, and masks will be worn when they're not eating those ribs.
Our friends we've known for 30 years. One has a heart condition, so he's got to be very careful. No hugging, no kissing. No, nothing.
And that's exactly what health experts want to hear. The last spike in COVID-19 cases in the Coachella Valley happened after another holiday weekend.
We're certainly concerned about what's going to happen over Labor Day. Following Memorial Day, over the next several weeks, we just saw a tremendous spike in the number of cases, eventually peaking in July at over 90 cases in the hospital.
That spike was seen across the county, state, and country, too. County and federal health officials don't want a repeat.
I certainly am concerned that people may get the wrong idea. The virus is still around. We've got plenty of circulating virus about.
When you get into holiday weekends, the 4th of July, Memorial Day, there's a tendency of people to be careless somewhat with regard to the public health measures that we keep recommending over and over again.
And sadly, with more cases,
Unavoidable fact that if we have a significant uptick in the number of cases, we are going to see more deaths, and those deaths are unnecessary.
That's right. And Dr. Williamson also says that the key difference is if we have a spike this time, it will coincide with flu season, and that will make for a perfect storm. Also, I do want to remind you that all county testing sites will be closed through Monday. Everyone have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend. Reporting live from Indio, Kitty Alvarado, back to you in the very cool studio.
Cool indeed. Thank you, Kitty. Firefighters across California preparing for the heat wave as well. The National Forest Service has pre-deployed resources to areas of particular concern. That includes nearby San Bernardino National Forest. Officials there say they've ramped up staffing and have firefighters on 24-hour shift in case a fire should break out overnight. You may recall the Apple Fire burned 30,000 acres in and around the National Forest. Officials are especially concerned about illegal campfires, which are now up 270% from this time last year. 2 women are under arrest tonight accused of prostitution and maintaining a brothel in Palm Springs. Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force arrested 57-year-old Xiaying Minor and 42-year-old Yun Su after serving a search warrant on South Williams Drive in Palm Springs. It's part of a sex trafficking investigation. Both were taken to county jail. No victims of the sex trafficking, though, have been identified. The historic Illuminaire House is being donated to Palm Springs Art Museum, is expected to become part of its permanent collection. The home, which was created by Albert Fry in 1931, it's historically significant because of its aluminum and metal design. Pending final approval by the city, assemblage of the structure could begin as early as 2021. And the city of Indio officially cancels this year's Tamale Festival. The city was supposed to welcome nearly 100,000 people to the city from December 8th and 9th. The mayor of Indio, Glenn Miller, says it's just a difficult decision, but with California Department of Health still listing Riverside County's COVID-19 risk as widespread, they had no other choice. The festival may be rescheduled for 2021. Coming up after the break, like us here at NBC Palm Springs, many Americans say they'll be working Labor Day weekend. Well, at least Mike and I will, because more and more workers are going remote. Hello, constable, need to come to the door. And even though there's a federal moratorium on evictions due to the pandemic, some are still being carried out. Coming up a bit later, we're going to head to Houston and follow the constable as he goes door to door evicting families with no place else to go. Nearly 3/4 of U.S. adults say they'll do at least some work while traveling this Labor Day weekend. Workers are looking to go remote, with searches for rural destinations up 91% year over year. But modern conveniences like high-speed internet are a requirement. It appears that summer vacations weren't all the rage this year, with safety concerns and economic challenges from the pandemic. Nearly 3/4 of Americans didn't travel at all. 44% didn't use any of their paid time off over the summer, and when asked why, they said they were concerned about furloughs and layoffs. Some also felt guilty asking for time off since they were working from home anyways. All right, we got lots more after the break, but first let's check in with Mike on this blistering hot weekend. Mike.
Gina, we're just getting started. We got up into record territory today. We're going to take temperatures up as we go into the weekend. Records will fall not only here in the Coachella Valley, but all across Southern California. I've got all the temperatures, all the details, and some better news when we come back. Welcome back. We're so blessed to have these cameras. This one is our Walter Clark 111 cam in beautiful Rancho Mirage, California. There you are looking at Highway 111. There's a bus going by and some cars. Everybody getting to where they need to be as we go into this Labor Day weekend. It is going to be hot. In case you didn't get the memo, excessive heat warning in place for the Coachella Valley. Kicked in earlier today, is going to be in place all the way through until Monday night at 8 p.m. You'll see the numbers in a moment. You'll understand it. You'll also understand that this is not just an us thing. In fact, this time around, what makes this heat wave different is they've got the same excessive heat warnings all the way out to the coast. So as I push the magic button in Orange County and down towards San Diego as well, they're under the same excessive heat warning. That'll be in place until Sunday night. There is a possibility a little eddy is going to kick up late on Sunday night. That'll cool things for our friends at the coast on Monday, but we will remain hot into next week. How hot, you ask? Great question. I'm glad you asked it. Here's what we're looking at this weekend. We will push 122 in some communities this weekend here in the Coachella Valley, 113 in the high deserts, 118 in the Inland Empire. Orange County could get up to about 115 in some spots. Mountain foothills below 5,000 feet could push 110. It seems surreal as I'm saying this to you. And coastal communities could get up to about 95 degrees, and overnight temperatures won't cool a whole lot either. In fact, we'll be in the 90s overnight many nights this weekend. On top of that, our weather watch has now been upgraded to a red flag warning for the mountains here. I'm begging you, I'm beseeching you, please do not use any fireworks this weekend. Be sparing with campfires, bonfires, anything like that. If you don't absolutely have to have one, just take those precautions into place there. And also just be aware that it's not always fires that start these things. Sometimes it's dragging chains on trailers. Just exercise precaution. On top of that, we got rolling blackouts possible. We're actually under a flex alert right now until 9 o'clock tonight. The big thing is to have a plan in place. Make sure you've got some alternatives for air conditioning. But on top of that, limit your daytime electricity use, especially the dishwasher, the laundry, whatever. If you can put it off until late tonight or off until Tuesday, that'd be even better. Will we break records this weekend? Yeah, we're going to break records this weekend. I've got 119 for Saturday and Sunday in Palm Springs, 119 and 117 for Saturday and Sunday in Thermal. And as you can very clearly see, all those numbers well above the existing records. Future winds tonight, it's going to take us a while to do it, but we will get the diurnal switch right between about 9 and 10 o'clock tonight. That'll give us a little ventilation, but not much. Current temperatures in the upper 90s in the Yucca Valley, still holding on to some solid 110s to 114s here in the Coachella Valley, 81 up in Big Bear. We start warm tomorrow, we get hot. 118 by 4 p.m., 119 is where I have most of us topping out here in the Coachella Valley tomorrow, and it's going to stay hot through the weekend. We're going to have the exact identical day on Sunday, slightly cooler on Monday. Here's the great news though. We back it off on Tuesday. We're going to go below average on Wednesday and Thursday, but more importantly, we get those overnights back into the 70s.
Millions of Americans are falling further and further behind on their rent as Congress fails to reach a deal to get them much needed help. Though the CDC announced a national moratorium on evictions, it was too little, too late for many families in Houston, Texas. Kyung Law has that story.
Hello? Constable, need to come to the door.
From one Houston home to the next.
Hello, Constable.
Deputy Benny Gant with the Harris County Constable's Office executes judge's orders to evict.
Hello, Constable.
We ain't got nowhere to go.
Israel Rodriguez is the tenant at this apartment, but he's not alone. 20-month-old Israel, his brother, 4-year-old Fabian, and their mother are some of the estimated 40 million Americans facing eviction in the downward spiral of the COVID economy.
They didn't rush us, but they were like, get everything you need.
Rodriguez admits he hasn't been paying rent, behind thousands of dollars.
It's my fault in the eviction. It was a lot going on during the corona. When it hit, I lost my job. So it took me like a month to get another job. This is my check, but I ain't making it with $300. It's literally $300.
Their stroller now carries their possessions.
It's mainly the kids' clothes because me and her just wear the same clothes almost every day. Make sure we got, toilet paper and a little bit of snacks for the kids.
What are you gonna do with all of your stuff?
That's trash. They can throw it in the trash because we don't have a car, we don't have help, we don't have nobody that can come, help us out right now. Nobody. We got ourselves, me and the kids and her, that's it.
How does you as law enforcement feel about seeing that family have to go?
Oh, it's a tough situation. I've got 6 kids, 6 children. And, when the kids see the mom and dad in desperate situations, it's tough.
That's clear.
Deputy Gant, an officer for 35 years, is just starting his day. 8 evictions are on his list.
A co-defendant is here, 2 of them.
At each stop, people behind on rent are ordered to leave. Possessions pulled out.
Where are you guys going to go now?
We gotta go to a hotel.
You can go to a hotel?
As Deputy Gant works through his list, we get word that 200 eviction orders have come through the Harris County courts for this week. That's double what they normally saw for an entire month before COVID.
200 on Monday. What does that...
Well, that's a lot, yeah.
What does that say to you?
Well, what that means is that they're ready to start having people removed from properties.
It is a backlog, but it's also just one precinct in one of America's hardest hit cities in evictions. The job takes its toll.
I don't really want to put her out here, but I have to under this judge's order.
At this apartment, the tenant is an elderly woman who can no longer afford the rent. The landlord's mover, Francisco Munoz, works, though he doesn't want to.
I have a family, I have a sister, I have my mom, and we never know. Maybe today is her, tomorrow's me,
Midway through the eviction, Deputy Gant decides it's too dangerous to evict her in the Houston summer heat.
I'm not going to put her out here in this heat.
And will call social services instead.
You're going to stay today, but tomorrow you're leaving.
A one-day reprieve with an uncertain tomorrow.
You have a situation where people aren't working, they don't have the money, and they're desperate.
That was Kyung Law reporting. As we said, the CDC announced a federal national eviction moratorium, but their guidelines only protect a narrow group of people. There are specific definitions of who can and cannot be evicted. And something important to note, there is no rent forgiveness. Joining us now is Heather Vicona, the CEO of local nonprofit Lift to Rise, and Carrie Harmon. She's the director of the county's housing authority. Thank you both for being here. Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we now at a point where we could see massive evictions and massive foreclosures across not only California, but across the country?
Absolutely. I think we're at the point where people have exhausted their savings, exhausted any safety net they had with family, friends, and they're really getting to the point where if they can't get income into the household, whether it's through unemployment or going back to work, that they're really going to be in a critical situation where it comes to rent and might never be able to dig themselves out of those rental arrears.
All right, let's talk a little bit about it, though, Carrie, if you would. Now, is there not a moratorium at state and federal level that you can't evict people right now?
Yes, there absolutely is. Those were passed and issued in the last couple of days. One through the Center for Disease Control, and that's the federal one, which is in effect till December 31st. And the other was issued by the governor and is in effect in the state of California. That is in effect through the end of January. So it does offer protections in the sense that people cannot be displaced from the home they're in, but it does not provide any sort of financial relief from the owed rent.
Right. So, Heather, let's talk about that, because we've heard a couple of things. One, when they do have to come good, when people are back to work and all these moratoriums are lifted, it's going to be double rents for 6, 7, 8 months. Or landlords are also finding other ways to evict people by jacking up electricity costs or some of their utilities. What are some of the stories you're hearing from your clients?
Yeah, I think, Gina, the important thing to note is what Carrie offered, that while the eviction moratoria are really important to be able to keep people in their homes now, absolutely, without some sort of federal and statewide workout, what we're looking at is a potential financial collapse, because how how are folks going to be able to pay back rent? What we know is before COVID-19, 2 out of 3 local renters were housing cost burdened. And so we know that folks, especially low-income folks, are disproportionately economically impacted in the downturn. So that's why we're really excited about the work that we get to do with the County of Riverside and the Board of Supervisors' incredibly robust investment in the resiliency of families through the Rental Assistance Fund. It's the 3rd largest investment in rental assistance per capita using CARES Act funding of any county in the country.
Carrie, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, it's easy to make the landlords or the owners of the home or the apartment complex, make them into the bad guys here. But for the most part, they've got banks and they've got notes due as well. What can we do so that we can take care of the renters or the homeowners as much as we can, the landlords and the people that owe money to banks?
I absolutely agree. It is not just a problem for renters, it is also a problem for landlords and the rental market, the private rental market as a whole. In the case of Riverside County, we made the payments of rental arrears directly to landlords. So that the landlords get the benefit of it. We're also doing a lot of outreach to landlords to encourage them to have their renters, if they're behind, to apply. And so I think ultimately, if there's additional assistance at the federal or state level, it has to include payments and support for landlords and large apartment owners.
Yeah. Now, Heather, you've been on the front line since day one on this, working with individual families. I mean, you're right down on the street level. How are we holding up? How are we in the Coachella Valley doing, making sure people aren't thrown onto the streets through no fault of their own?
Sure. I would say, and Gino, this is work that we've held together with Riverside County since the beginning of the downturn. But, the long-term work that we hold together with Carrie and the Housing Authority is really about increasing the supply of housing that people can afford, because exactly what we're seeing in the downturn is the reason why we need more housing that people can afford, and we need to pass policies that ensure living wages for folks, because, people can't do anything else. I think that we shared our data report with you. 75% of applicants have a school-age child. Half of applicants, almost half, have a child that's age 0 to 5, and nearly half are single mothers. And these are all incredibly hardworking families that are trying to do everything they can to be able to stay in their home. And it compounds if you're not able to stay in your home. It's not just a public health crisis, but all the other things related to a child's education and being able to access distance learning. So as of yesterday, really phenomenal news. The eligibility guidelines have been expanded to the United Lift Rental Assistance Fund. So folks, regardless of income level, are able to apply. And you do not have to provide any documentation about being behind in rent. So folks, wherever they are, as long as they have a lease agreement and they can demonstrate a financial impact by COVID-19, will likely qualify. And another really amazing thing is that we're able to offer a full lump sum payment to everyone who qualifies of $3,500. And the other thing of note is that beginning in just a couple weeks, on the 17th, twice weekly, we'll have mobile pop-up sites. We know that for anyone who's stressed out right now and behind in rent, or needs to pay next month's rent, waiting to hear back from us and get your documents in, it is a really stressful thing. So we're taking the signups on the road. We have 15 sites, so we'll have 30 events between September 17th and the end of November, where hopefully if folks show up with all of their information, they'll be able to qualify on the spot, really expediting getting funds to landlords and keeping folks in their homes.
Carrie, Heather and I have talked about this before, but I'm interested in getting your response to the idea that I think most people would say, no, more affordable housing is great, just not in my neighborhood. Do you understand that sort of knee-jerk reaction to affordable housing?
I have experienced that knee-jerk reaction many times in my 20-year career in housing. But I think affordable housing can fit in and be integrated into neighborhoods very seamlessly. In the Section 8 program, we have over 10,000 households basically in affordable housing where the voucher makes it affordable. So they rent in the private market. It's been an incredibly successful program. It came into play in the United States after World War II. And so affordable housing can look very differently. It doesn't always have to be large apartment complexes. It can be affordable mobile homes. It can be vouchers. It can be eventually homes to purchase. And so I think it can take on many different looks that fit the needs of the community it's in.
Carrie Harmon, Heather Vicona, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Gina.
Coming up, as the U.S. heads into summer's last holiday weekend, we'll take a look at dire predictions coming from one of the leading COVID-19 models and where we could find ourselves in January. And the jobs report for August is out. What is our economic recovery looking like, and how many of those jobs are temporary?
Plus, the greatest player of all time. That's me. Joins the Jeopardy team.
Has a new role at Jeopardy. Find out what that is when we come back.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
As the United States heads into Labor Day weekend, leading models estimate the COVID-19 death toll will be more than 410,000 Americans dead by January, more than doubling the current number. Experts behind the statistics say wearing a mask could save 120 lives. There is some good news, though. AstraZeneca just launched its phase 3 trials for COVID-19 vaccine. UCLA's medical center hopes to administer the potential vaccine to 30,000 volunteers. Scientists want to find out if it can prevent symptomatic COVID-19 infections after 2 doses. This vaccine does not contain a live virus, so researchers say it cannot infect study participants. Volunteers who receive the shots will be monitored for 2 years to see if they contract the disease, or certainly checking for side effects. The economic impact of COVID-19 continues to rattle the nation. 1.4 million jobs were added in August, hardly offsetting the 11 million jobs we've lost since February. 1 in 6 of those jobs, though, are new jobs. They were temporary jobs, according to the Census Department. The unemployment rate did dip below 10% for the first time since March, now sitting at 8.4%. Well, let the voting begin. Today, North Carolina is mailing out first ballots for the presidential election, marking the start of the sprint towards November. Just 8 weeks away now from Election Day. More than 618,000 ballots are being sent to folks in North Carolina who requested them. That's more than 16 times the amount they sent out in 2016, an astronomical increase as states and voters adapt to the pandemic. Live look now at our courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino cam. Let's check in with Mike, who's got a little preview of what's going to be a scorching hot weekend. Mike.
Gino, normally I'm excited for the weekend, and I'm especially excited for the Labor Day weekend, but this one is going to be laborious indeed. Temperatures are not only going to boom up into the 120 range here in the Coachella Valley, but all of Southern California is going to be extremely hot. We're talking about temperatures that'll be anywhere between 10 and 20 degrees above normal. So here we live in a desert, Southern California. We're kind of used to it getting hot here, but all of our friends along and west of the mountains will also be extremely warm as well. All the way out to the coast, red flag warnings, and well, let me break that out into components. We will have excessive heat warnings all the way out towards the coast here. Let me see if I can get that. Boom, there it is. All of that purple, this will be in place today, tomorrow, and Sunday along the coast. We'll stretch out into Monday as well. It looks like a little eddy will form right off of the coast on Sunday night, bring some relief to our friends there as they go into Labor Day itself. Temperatures are just going to rock. We're going to shatter records all the way across Southern California. In fact, we already did some of that today. Stick around the full forecast. I'll tell you more about that. Up to 122 is possible here in the Coachella Valley. We'll see anything up to about 118 in the Inland Empire, and even coastal areas shall not be immune. We're talking about some mid to the upper 90s there. Red flag warnings, that's an upgrade from the fire weather watch that we had in place yesterday. It's going to be extremely dry. We'll have easterly winds pushing in about 30 to 40 miles an hour this weekend, and that's really going to dry things out. It's a bit on the dry side right now. We've got single-digit humidity, 9% at the airport, 114 after hitting 116 today and tying the record for today's date. We're going to break some records on Saturday and Sunday. I'll tell you about that coming up. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air, 119, 119, 119. But there is some hope on the horizon here. In fact, we're going to take those numbers down considerably and get ourselves back below average, if you can wrap your head around that. Details in your full forecast, minutes away.
California has seen more than 700,000 coronavirus cases, and even though Latinos make up less than 40% of the population, they account for 60% of the infections. Stephanie Elam has that story.
I get tired, I have to take breaks.
Each step for Jenny Ruelas is a challenge.
I have to walk around with an oxygen can.
She says her father's 38-year-old girlfriend, Karina Bonilla, contracted COVID-19 in early May. Then Jenny's father, Humberto Ruelas, got sick. And then Jenny did too. They all lived together with the couple's 5 other children. Within 4 days, Jenny says she had headaches, chills, a fever, and lost her appetite.
I kept feeling chest pain.
Jenny was admitted to the hospital first.
They have ice everywhere because they can't control my fever.
Within days, Humberto and Bonilla were admitted together. Jenny's dad in the room right next to hers.
They're not giving my dad longer than 24 hours. I lost it. I was so mad. I hit the wall and I was like, Dad, don't do this to me.
Within minutes, he was gone.
Even though he had passed already in his facial expressions, you can see the pain. He was in a lot of pain. And that's the face I'll never forget.
8 hours later, Bonilla also died.
I can't wait to go home. I want to go home.
In California, Jenny's story is not an anomaly. Through August, the data shows that Latinos make up 60% of coronavirus cases and close to 50% of deaths, despite representing more than a third of the state's population. Why is the Latino population in California getting hit so hard by the coronavirus?
Latinos make really a very significant portion of what we would call essential workforce. We have very high rates of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, obesity, smoking. There is some social disparities in terms of just financial opportunities, healthcare access and utilization.
But it's the agriculturally rich Central Valley of California where the positivity rate is staggering. In those 8 counties, the rate is about double that of the state, as many of the farming jobs come with increased risk of exposure to the virus.
So even within our very high risk, there's even higher risk there.
The California Farm Worker Foundation is now offering free testing at work sites. Additionally, Governor Gavin Newsom deployed 3 support teams to the region to boost testing and contact tracing efforts with social services support.
I know that sometimes you have 3 generations of families living in a 2-bedroom trailer, and so they don't have the luxury of self-isolating. It's about the contact tracing and providing the resources for them to take time off of work.
As for Ginny, while she no longer tests positive for the virus, she definitely hasn't recovered. The 31-year-old had a stroke.
For the people who think this can't devastate a family, what do you say to them?
When you go through what my dad went through, trust me, nobody's going to tell you what to do because you're not going to be here anymore.
That was Stephanie Elam reporting. The infection rate in Central California's Valley is coming down from where it was back in July, but support teams there are spreading awareness about testing in both English and Spanish. Coming up in sports, day 1 of the PGA Tour's Championship. The winner of the tournament takes home a sweet $15 million. We'll show you the leaderboard after the first round. Time now for a check on our NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. The final event of the PGA Tour season, the Tour Championship, teed off today from East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. They're operating on a Friday through Monday format, so today was round 1. The winning player will receive $15 million. Now, the scoring is weighted by starting stroke, so Dustin Johnson, who's in first, started at -10. John Rahm in second started at -8, and so forth down to even par. After round 1, Dustin Johnson and John Rahm are tied for the lead at 13 under. Justin Thomas is in third. Rory McIlroy is in fourth. Round 2 gets underway tomorrow morning at 8:45, and maybe by then I'll be able to understand the actual format. Well, it turned out to be much ado about nothing. Arguably the second greatest player on planet Earth right now, Lionel Messi, will return to Barcelona. The soccer star had decided to drop his request to leave the club after he tried to enact an exit clause in his contract. But the club said he missed the deadline to announce his desire to leave. In a statement today, Messi said he would never take the club to court and that he still wants to end his career with Barcelona. By the way, the buyout on Lionel Messi, 700 million euros. It's like almost $1 billion. 146th running of the Kentucky Derby will take place in Churchill Downs tomorrow. Tiz the Law, who won the Belmont on June 20th, is the favorite. No fans will be in the stands, no huge hats, none of those fancy beverages that they enjoy in Kentucky. You can watch the Derby starting tomorrow morning, 11:30, right here on NBC Palm Springs. 4 hours of coverage for a 3-minute race. That's going to do it for us. Let's check in with Mike.
Gino, I'm going to wear an enormous hat and sip mint juleps all morning long. Here is a gorgeous live look courtesy of your Agua Caliente Casino Cam. It just looks hot out there, doesn't it? Sun's going down early. You'd think it would get cooler, but it's not. Details in your full forecast when we come back. Welcome back. Another beautiful live look. I love that pastel color that the sky takes in the summertime here in the Coachella Valley. Still, even that one looks a bit warm, despite the fact that we got a lot of shade going on out there. Temperatures will only cool, get this, into the upper 80s and lower 90s overnight tonight. And we are just getting started as we go into this Labor Day weekend. Broad ridge of high pressure is going to heat the entire west here, and records will fall. They got into record territory today. Temperatures got up to 116 at Palm Springs International. That is the official place where we keep all of our records, going back to the late 1800s. Well, in 1955, we were also 116, so it was only a tie today, but still well above the 30-year average, which is 104 for this time of year at Palm Springs International. 8 degrees warm in the overnights as well. Well, we're on the topic of records. A couple of them fell today. Thermal got up to 116, beat their old record. We only had to go back 1 year in the almanac for that one. Tie in Palm Springs today, and then a couple of extraordinary ones. Idlewild got to 100 degrees today. That is the highest all-time temperature up there. The old one was 99, set back in 1982. Big Bear Lake did it today as well. They tied their old record. 87 degrees is what they achieved. The old record back in 1978 was also 87 degrees. We're expecting those records to be broken this weekend as well. Coachella Valley is going to break some records. I've got 119 as our high temperature on both Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have that in thermal as well on Saturday. Back that off to 117 on Sunday. And as you can very clearly see there, all of those are well above record territory. 114 is the record for tomorrow in Palm Springs. We're expecting to beat that by about 5 degrees. Enough about records. If you are here visiting and you're not used to this type of heat, it is possible to get heat exhaustion. Just make sure you limit the amount of time that you're out, especially in the afternoons. Jogging, no. Climbing, hiking, no. And if you start to experience dizziness, fainting, confusion, fatigue, or for me, I always get that low, dull headache, make sure you're keeping yourself hydrated there. If you are enjoying the adult beverages this weekend, make sure you're doing a 1-to-1 ratio, getting some water in there in between each one of those you consume. Putting future winds into motion tonight, we will see what's called the diurnal switch around 9-10 o'clock tonight. That's when that wind switches around to the northwest and gives us a little bit of ventilation, but it's going to be a little bit tonight. We'll get up to about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Nothing gusty. Temperatures are still warm right now, holding on to 114 at the airport, but 105 in Coachella, upper 90s in Yucca Valley, lower 80s in Big Bear, and after hitting that centennial mark today, we're backing off to 91 in Idlewild. Temperatures will cool fairly efficiently tonight because it is dry out there, but don't expect much. We start in the upper 80s and lower 90s on Saturday morning, 118 by 4 p.m. in Palm Springs, and we keep right on going. 119 looks like it's going to be a very popular number here in the Coachella Valley. We'll see 108 in Joshua Tree, 115 out towards 29 Palms. It's going to be a very hot, very dry Labor Day weekend, but there is hope on the horizon here. In fact, a powerful low pressure system moves in next week, drives us back below average starting on Wednesday.
As we head into the holiday weekend, a jump in travel is expected, including air travel. And with a major airline announcing that Palm Springs will soon be on its destination list, more travel is expected to come. We spoke to travelers coming into town and have city's reaction on Southwest Airlines' plans to come to the desert.
Palm Springs is a great California destination. Southwest has long carried more customers to, from, and within the Golden State than any other airline.
It's something that has been a priority for the City Council for over 10 years. It wasn't that many years ago that we used to have to pay American Airlines to have one flight a day in the summer to Dallas. So now we've come full circle with Southwest, so this is great news.
Southwest Airlines did not give an exact date for when they'll begin their flights into and out of Palm Springs. We should hear about that later this year. Back after the break.
Brighter Side of the News is brought to you by Holland RV, located off the I-10 at Washington.
Jeopardy announces it'll be returning for its 37th season starting September 14th with a new look and a familiar face.
Plus, the greatest player of all time, that's me, joins the Jeopardy team. Entire categories presented by the GOAT himself.
Don't worry, I'll still be the host.
Good. 74-time champion Ken Jennings has joined the show as a consulting producer. Recently crowned Jeopardy greatest of all time. Will present special video categories, develop projects, assist with contestant outreach, and serve as an ambassador for the show. I didn't even know that was a job. Alex Trebek is also returning to his hosting duties as he continues to amazingly battle pancreatic cancer. The new shows will not have a studio audience. There'll be more space between the contestants. And as far as Trebek, he will be there in all of his glory. He's an amazing man. All right, that all begins right here on NBC Palm Springs, September 14th at 7:30. It's going to do it for us. Have a great, safe holiday weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.